Hello, how you doing? Good, good. I was asked to come and speak with Pete, and we were going to speak on this title, Grow, Don't Grow. And my first thought was this: what a completely ridiculous and stupid question that is. Seriously, grow or don't grow your youth work? Honestly, I was like, I can't even think of a way of debating this. Of course, youth work should be growing. Of course, the stuff that you're doing should be developing and growing, and more young people should be getting involved. Surely growth is completely biblical. The kingdom is advancing. God can do immeasurably more than you can ask or imagine. Let me kill a little bit of a myth straight away. Big is not necessarily bad. You know, I kind of get sick of that thing where we all say, well, you mustn't talk about numbers. We should never mention numbers. Apart from in Acts, they can mention numbers. It's okay. 3,000 people are. Oh, that's terribly arrogant of them. They got 3,000. They shouldn't have gone for 3,000. Should have gone for 10. 10's much better than 3,000. It's okay for lots of people to hear the good news about Jesus. It's okay to expect youth ministry to grow, to expect to see tons of people saved and given their lives to him. Why on earth would that be bad? When Jesus gathered his disciples at the very end of his time here on earth, he gave them a commission. And he said this, off you go, find 10 people, form a little holy huddle, make them completely dependent upon you, and whatever you do, keep them away from the big bad world of non-Christians there are out there. He didn't say that. Just there's some people flicking through their Bibles. Hold on a minute. I'm pretty sure that's not in there. It's not in there. It's because he didn't say that. He said, go into all the world. It's a big vision. Jesus gave them this massive vision. Go into all the world and make disciples. It's not about getting just a few. We should be going for the many. When I took over the youth work at St. Thomas Church, we had 60 young people. And we've seen God do some great stuff. We've now got 600 people in our youth work. And you know what? Every time my guys start to say, this is great. Isn't God doing some great stuff? We're feeling pretty smug about ourselves. I remind them, you know what? There's 66,000 young people in Sheffield. There's 125,000 under 18s. And hardly any of them know Jesus. It's not good enough yet. Our heart has to be, we go for them all. Surely every single one matters. I'm not satisfied with the 600 we've got on our youth work. That's not immeasurably more than I can ask or imagine. So surely it's not biblical. In the Bible it says this. When Jesus is talking about the seed falling on different soil, he gets to the point where he says there's good soil. And I'm hoping most of us would think, yeah, we're good soil. We're good soil. The word of faith has fallen on us. We're good soil. What should we expect to see? Multiplication. Is your expectation that you will see multiplication growth in your youth work? If your expectation is not that you'll see multiplication growth, I'm going to say this. Your expectation is not biblical. Your expectation should be for multiplication growth. So I look at this title and I say, grow, don't grow. Go read your flipping Bible. Pete.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rich. It's all very good saying that. My name's Pete, by the way, in case you get us mixed up. That's Rich over there. It's all very good you saying that, Rich, but I am a little bit bored and fed up of seeing too many youth workers just in it saying, yeah, we want the biggest thing, we want to go out, we're going to take hold of the city, we're going to march out there, we're going to transform the whole wide world, let's go for it. And they miss the young person sat right there in front of them. The young person who comes to the musty church hall week after week, who's not the coolest, not the most trendy, but generally wants to know something about Jesus, and all their youth leader can say is, I want the big things, I'm bored of that. They wouldn't say that out loud, but it's the way they do it and the way they act. We want to get bigger and bigger for all kinds of motives, and often it's to fuel our own ego, to make us think that we're the ones who are, we've got something going. I've got a big youth group, and that's when we start flexing the numbers at the youth network in the town, and we begin to say, yeah, I've got this many, and everyone sort of shies away from you because you've got the biggest group, and you feel good about it. You can do more damage than good, having your heart set on a city and missing the teenagers sitting right in front of you. I've been a leader of a successful local church, growing large youth group. We had a youth congregation on one occasion. There were about 200 young people there, and that was slightly bigger than it was normally because one of the young people had invited all her friends for her birthday party to the youth congregation. And I thought, there was our youth pastor, like, this is amazing, this is brilliant, we've got a load of non-Christians. Opportunity to become Christians that night. About 50 young people came forward and gave their life to Christ that night. I was buzzing, I was kicking off, I was like, this is amazing, this is what it's all about. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. 4 weeks later, only 2 of those 50 were still in church. Now there's only 1 because the girl that invited them for a birthday isn't even walking with the Lord. Not a great story. What's the end game of what you're trying to do? What's the end game? Is it about stirring up some big number? Or is it about going deep and producing disciples that will last the long haul? Young people who will learn what it looks like to follow Jesus, and they will do it day in, day out for the rest of their lives. And on the day that they die, they will be more full of faith than they ever were before. Standing for Jesus. Through all the cultural struggles that we've looked at today, they've kept going. Numbers are sexy, but fruit is eternal. And we've got to go for fruit. If you want big, then can I encourage you, get a big vision and passion for small individual work. Go deep, go deep. We desperately need disciples walking this land. There are few and far between. We have a way of describing discipleship in One Life, and I'm going to use these microphone stands. It's an imperfect scale of 1 to 5, but it helps us describe where we feel young people are at. At number 1, they're in attendance. They just come along, or maybe you're going to them and they're just there and they're attending. Number 2, they get involved. They begin to kind of partake. Maybe they bring a friend or something. They're involved with what you're doing. There's a sense of involvement. You know them by name. Number 3, there's a commitment. I want to be part of this. I'm into this. I'm for it, and I'm committed to it. Number 4, they move into sanctification, that theological word, and they start actually becoming more like Christ. Number 5, they go towards perfection, which is something John Wesley talks about. You can Google that later and find out what perfection means. In our youth ministry, there are far too few at perfection and sanctification. Hardly any, because we're not discipling and going deep. If your diary or program is too full to intentionally develop one-to-one discipleship relationships, then for the sake of the kingdom, go and change something now, please. Deep-end discipleship can only thrive in intimate settings. That's because in those places, you can develop honest accountability and transformative encouragement. Intimacy and authenticity are connected. They are linked. If you want authentic disciples, you've got to go for intimacy, the one-to-one. And that is why Jesus fought for it all the time, withdrawing to be with his Father, taking his disciples away from the crowds so that he could invest deep, one-to-one. Build strategy around intimacy, and you will produce authenticity. Young disciples who will go the long haul and who will make the long-term difference. Do the brave thing and grow small. Rich.
Now, this might surprise you, but I totally agree with Pete. That's not because I'm won over that youth work should only be small. I totally believe youth work should be big. Let me steal also from John Wesley. John Wesley said this: I am convinced that the devil himself wants nothing more than for people of a place to be half awakened and then left to themselves to fall asleep again. I'm convinced that the devil himself wants nothing more than for people of a place to be half awakened and then left to themselves to fall asleep again. I'm sick and tired of hearing all those stories of millions of people just giving their lives to Jesus, mostly because I hear the stats of the 18 to 30s, and I'm like, where on earth are they? Who cares? Who cares how many people stick up their hands and say yes? I care about how many people are going to carry on following Jesus. And I totally agree with Pete. It's all about deep-end, hardcore discipleship, really where we're getting alongside people, helping them work out their life and their challenges. But my question is, how do we do this on a really big scale? Because we can all agree with that and go, great, let's all just go and take our 10 young people and hide away and try and do that. But actually, my heart is this. I want to reach the 66,000 in Sheffield. We're going to have a lot of small groups to do that, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. In Sheffield, we came up with this system which basically nicked from John Wesley, because I thought he was cool. So John Wesley went around planting churches and he called them societies, but he also had something called classes, which are basically 12 to 24 people who get together and do family and hang out with each other and do life together, where everybody could be known, everyone could be part of the group and decide what to do. And so we've done that in our youth work. We said, let's just keep multiplying these little families. How many people are here on Facebook? Anybody here watch The Social Network, the film? Interesting film. Here's why. In it, there's a guy who creates this massive social network who's the most broken social networker that possibly ever existed. I'll be honest with you guys, I think that's because that's the heartbeat of the generation that we work with. Massively broken in the area of family, but massively wanting it, desperate for it, hungry for it. If you create families of young people, everybody will want to be part of it. So lots of people hear the numbers about our youth work up in Sheffield. They come up and they're like, great, can we come and see your youth event? Like, we don't have one. Our youth work is the least cool youth work you'll ever see. We just have a bunch of guys in little families. We just have lots of them. There are lots of little families spread all over the city. And the way we do it is we hang out with young people and say, what do you guys want to do? Let's just work on this together. One of the things I realized pretty early on doing youth work is that I'm not that cool. And you know what? Being cool, let me just break a myth. Being cool is not going to win anyone for Jesus. Just give up. Stop trying to be cool. Let's stop trying to be cool youth workers. I've flipping had enough of it. We've got to be people who just love young people and hang out with them and just be like mothers and fathers to them. I realized when I was about 23 years old, hanging out with some of my young people, actually they saw me like a dad and they didn't think I was cool at all. And it was absolute revelation for me. Actually, what they need is people who are like their mum and dad. It's like mum and dad are the family. Get lots of little families, multiply out. Here's the hard thing that we have to do, is we have to stop a lot of our big events. One of the things that drives me nuts is talking to youth workers. Like, what do you do? First thing they generally do is, do a youth service. Why? Why? We don't need any more youth services. I'm sick of youth services. We only do them because we want to start preaching to our young people. It's like we want to be vicars or something. It's like, let's let go of doing millions of youth services. Let's talk to the young people and empower them to lead little families that reach out to their friends. When we did this with some of our young people, one of my guys that I work with really regularly got together with these 3 young people that we had in our church who were a bit broken and burnt by stuff. And he said, look, guys, what do you want to do? And they said, you know what, we'd quite fancy going to the zoo. It was like, the zoo? Yeah, the zoo. We never would have come up with that in a million years of strategizing youth work sessions. Ever. With a bunch of 15-year-olds, take them to the zoo. Let me tell you, those guys were passionate about going to the zoo. So they gathered tons of their young people, their friends from school to come with them. And that's grown into a whole multitude of our families now. We have 3 or 4 groups of guys that grew out of those original 3 young people who decided to go to the zoo. Pete.
Okay. So it's turning into less of a discussion and more of an agreement because everyone's been expecting me and Rich to have a bit of a punch-up here. But everyone knows that I would win, so yes. So you're kind of getting this thing that it's this mix of big and small, isn't it? It's the both and it's this sense of actually going small. My heart and my passion is to go to the small stuff. I love the deep end discipleship stuff. There is a place for the big. Like Rich was saying, let's go out there. Let's keep growing because we need to make that happen. Large and small has always been known. In Scripture there was the celebration, the festival up in Jerusalem, and everyone would go. It would be the big thing. Everyone out in the streets, and then there was the small, the synagogues, where they would meet all around in their local towns. But I just want to keep pressing this, that it starts and it ends in the small. Large serves discipleship. It's the inspiration, but the small is the continuation. Large is the inspiration, the small is the continuation. And we need to be pressing in on that all the time. We saw significant growth in the church that I was involved with, and it all started from small and remained small throughout. So start thinking how you can make that happen. Don't just go for the big. Don't just think, right, let's grow, let's take the city. Think, how do we keep it small in the midst of keeping growing? It began for us in investing in just a few, in just drawing out the leaders and saying, actually, we want to get hold of some of these young people who have got this natural or this gifting in leadership and work with them and resource them so that we can then actually multiply our activities, not consolidate because we've got too many young people. Not just get them all in one place because we haven't got enough leaders, but develop leaders from early on and then build a culture of leadership around everything that you're doing, giving meaningful leadership away. That way you can multiply what you're doing and keep it small. We used to talk about this an orbital model. I'm going to need your help, guys. Beth, Martin, Rich, come on. So this is kind of the big white thing. It was just, a big white thing I found. So this is kind of represents the big thing, and sometimes we want to go for that. And then inside here, a load of table tennis balls, because we're at a youth work event, got to have table tennis balls. So table tennis balls, and often our thinking is, we just, maybe we'll have the big thing, we'll have lots of small things within that big thing that are making it work. Well, that is a way of thinking. That's a picture that can help us, isn't it? So try and have loads of small stuff within the bigger thing so that we can grow and keep small. We talked about it orbitally. So if you take one there, take one there. If I have two, Beth, there you go. There's one, Martin. You can have two as well. There you go. Right, I'll stand here, and then these things kind of orbit around the big thing. So come orbit around. Okay, that's it. Yes, you planets, you. Okay, so they're orbiting around thing, and every now and again, one of them is coming in and touching base with this. Yeah, that's it. There we go, and orbiting. So actually, the youth ministry that we were running was about the small thing. And then every now and again they would come and touch in, and they'd all come in and touch in at the same time, and we'd have a bigger thing. But really the focus of what we're doing was the smaller thing. And all those different missional communities, young people leading moments, you can stop orbiting now, young people leading their own expressions of church and working out what it meant to connect with their friends. And in these smaller groups like Rich talked about, these kind of 15 to 30 young people working together. And suddenly, if you've got like 10 of those, that's how you can have 300 young people. That's how you can grow and keep it small at the same time. My job wasn't about running some massive group and becoming the peer leader, the leader of it, who's this big person at the front, but it was about releasing leaders to mobilize multiple smaller groups so that we could do proper deep end discipleship and keep growing. We grew and we stayed small all at the same time. If the foundations of your youth work and the ministry that you do are in the small, then I think we're into exciting times for discipleship in this country. So please think it through and let the revival break out. Go and find your few. Go deep with them and release revival. Father, would you do it again in our day? Would you empower us, God, to go deep with you and see growth? Would you help us, God, to take young people deeper into who you are? Help us to walk alongside them. Help us to value the small, the individual. Help us to grow that. And from that place, Lord God, would you multiply so much that this nation is transformed and never remains the same. Because disciples are walking the street, transforming it before our eyes. Amen.